Today we're talking about this one, book number 45, The Revelation, another Marco book, and another one written by Ellen Giroux. First thing I want to say is completely irrelevant to this video, but my collection is getting so big now that I don't know where to fit everything. Now, I'm quite proud of some of the stuff that I've bought around here, and I want to show it off, but I've only got so much screen space, right? I don't know. Yeah, it's getting difficult. My Animorphs collection is getting too big. But anyway, let's talk about this. The reason I did go on that tangent, I'll be honest, is because I want to do anything apart from talk about this book, right? This is 10 books away from the end of the series. The countdown begins, essentially. And so I was coming into this book thinking, right, this is it. Let's go. Let's do this. We're going to start counting down. It's going to be great. I'm going to love it. Right, Ellen Giroux. We've done 3 books with her already. Number 33, The Illusion. Number 41, The Familiar. And book 43, The Test. Now, it's been a mixed bag, okay? 33 was very much largely plot-based, but also some character-driven stuff, but it was crap, in my opinion. Book 41, amazing book, really well done, and it really played to Ellen Giroux's strengths. What they are, we'll get to them in a second. And book 43, it was good, but the plot was let down, and that is Ellen Giroux's weakness, as I've found from the 3 books she's done so far. Strengths. Strengths are in metaphor, subtlety, okay? That sort of stuff, which The Familiar was very heavy on, hence why it was such a good book. Her weakness, her big weakness, is plot. Handling plot and making a convincing plot, which is part of the reason book 33 was so bad, and that was the major flaw in book 43. This book, what does it consist mostly of? Not very subtle things and plot points. Right, I should have seen this coming. It's not very good, and we'll talk about why. First scene, Marco's at home, and Nora and his father Peter arrive back home and have a bit of a chit-chat, and Peter's come home and he's all excited, and yeah, things are great. I'm gonna hug my wife and give her flowers. Marco, pat on the fucking back, you're a good lad. Yeah, he's something's wrong. Something's right or wrong. Well, a little badge is the wrong way around. Something's right or wrong. Okay, so he's explaining what's gone on to Marco. Turns out he's made an amazing discovery at work. Remember, he's like a sciencey engineering type. We never really go into details about what he does, apart from the fact that there's a lot of stuff to do with communication stuff. We'll just leave it at that. Communication stuff. And in the midst of all this, Marco has eaten his dinner in about 10 seconds, which I actually put a note down at that. As you're reading this, you think, bloody hell, he's just sat down to have his dinner, and about 3 paragraphs of conversation later, he's done and he throws his paper plate in the bin because he doesn't like washing dishes, apparently. I thought, bloody hell, you eat fast. I thought I ate fast, but Marco apparently takes it to another level. So Marco goes to sit down, but he's still overhearing this conversation between Peter and Nora, and suddenly Peter says, oh, what do I call it? I'm going to call it Z-Space. And Marco's just like, what? Z-Space? Now, this is the first bad point of the plot, okay? I hate convenience, plot convenience. If you watched these reviews up to this point, you know that. You know that I hate plot convenience for the sake of moving the plot along. And this just seems to be another example. Out of all the things he could have called this, he happens to pronounce it or name it the exact thing that everybody else in the universe who knows about it calls it. Well, not so much everyone else in the universe, but the Andalites, and hence the Yerks, who obviously got that knowledge from the Andalites. So Andalites, okay? So he calls it, Z-Space or Zero Space. You know, the 2 ways we say it as Animorphs fans, and they've been saying it all along. I just looked at that and thought, nah, that's just plot convenience. It's too unlikely. It's too unlikely. And I could let it off. I could let it off and say, well, there's a big coincidence. But the fact is, this book is full of conveniences. And when they add up, I start to lose forgiveness a little bit. Book. God damn it. And another big issue about this is he goes on to describe zero space. Marco, he said, communication through this singularity, through this zero space, would be instantaneous. Unlike light, for example, the communication would actually travel zero distance. Just think, we could talk to the furthest star in an instant, send information faster than the speed of light. No travel distance at all. Right. That's not real. Is that how zero space works? You know, we don't really get much on zero space. We know that they've used zero space to communicate with the Andalites in Book 8, you know, the big satellite thing, but also it takes travel time for physical objects to get through. So I suppose I'm actually correcting myself as I'm going along here. So I suppose instantaneous communication would mean no distance, but no, that doesn't really make sense. So if there's no distance to travel, then when a ship enters zero space, it should take no time to get there, surely. I need to do a video. I need to just do like a bit of research on zero space, just add everything up and try to come sort of logical conclusion. Whether I do, who the fuck knows? And then chapter 2 ends. He stopped at the front door, turned back to us. You know what, he said, this zero space discovery, it's big, really big. I don't think our lives will ever be the same. Now, a lot of people will forgive that as just a bit cringe, but it's too on the nose. It's far too on the nose. There's no subtlety about it. And I'm a bit confused because Ellen Giroux is all about subtlety. That's Ellen Giroux's strength. Subtle metaphor, you know, you have to delve into things. It's not like in your face, this thing's going to change our lives forever. Funny that, isn't it? No, Ellen Giroux, stick to your strengths. Don't give us this unsubtle bollocks, this cringe, ham-fisted nonsense. And then we move on to the next chapter, and they're in Cassie's barn, so there's a big meeting. Marco's basically called them up and said, right, shit's going down, shit's real. So they all go to Cassie's barn and they have a big discussion. Do you remember books 30 and 31? Been quite a while ago now, but it should be fresh in our minds what the messages were from that. They were sort of mirror images. And a lot of it was about realising when you should take a step back and let somebody else take control, especially when the subject in question is personal to you. So in book 30, Marco's mother, and he made decisions. Turns out those decisions were not great, so the other team had to sort of step in and make things right. In book 31, Jake is dealing with his father and Tom, and in the end, the other Animorphs have to come in and take the fight over because it's too personal to Jake, even as he is the leader. Okay, books 30 and 31 give us that message, right? So how does Jake address, and Marco address this issue? I felt Jake's eyes on me, then his hand on my shoulder. How do we handle this, Marco? You're dad, you're cool. No, Jake. No, this happened to Marco before in book 30. Same person, basically very similar situation. And you learn from that you don't give Marco the reins. And you're here saying, it's your call, mate. No, Jake, fuck off. Have you learnt nothing from books 30 and 31 and the subsequent and preceding books? Because it happens in other times as well. He shouldn't be making these calls. To be fair to Jake, Jake glanced at Cassie. Okay, he said, a stakeout starting now. That's when I realised why Jake had looked at Cassie. Jake had asked her if she thought I could be trusted. He said it all in one quick glance, and she'd said no. So that's Jake basically coming back, which makes him a bit of a tosser, really. Marco, this is your call. Actually, it's not your call, it's my call. Why are you doing that? Why? It makes no sense. You've just contradicted yourself, Jake. You don't do that. Have a word with Cassie first, or use your own intuition and look back at previous situations. Don't go up to him and tell him, it's your call, and then, right, you've given a kid a lollipop, right? You go up to this kid and you say, here's a lollipop. Oh, no, a bag of nuts. Let's take it away from kids. Let's make it a bit more sensible, right? You've at a house party, right? And you come up to some bloke and you say, here, mate, try these sweeties. He dips his hand in and says, oh, these are lovely. Oh, I've never tasted these before. Oh. And then you go up to his friend and you say, do you think he's got a nut allergy? Because these are nuts. And she says, yes, he has a very severe nut allergy. Oh shit, he's dead. Oh, who'd have thunked it? No, Jake, Christ almighty, have you learnt nothing? Give a kid a lollipop. And then said to the parents, can he have that lollipop? And they say, no. Right, back, you're not having it. Fuck you, kids. You just come across as a tosser. And then page 17. So Jake has sort of taken it back in a really dickish way, which I can sort of accept. Not really, but sort of, especially relative to what Marco does here. I walked out of the barn and started down the road. I didn't morph to bird. I wanted to walk as a kid. I wanted to pretend for just a minute that a kid was all I was, but my mind knew better. Jake, my oldest friend, didn't trust me to do the right thing when family was involved. I would show him he was wrong. He's already shown you before, in book 30, that he was right. So what's this bollocks about? I'm going to show him he's wrong, even though he's proven before that he's correct. So Marco goes home, and it's late at night, and suddenly again, plot convenience comes in. He picks up a phone that's ringing just at the same time that his dad does. Great plot convenience, guys. Ellen. And he listens in on this call, and it's one of his dad's friends somewhere. Chummy's got in a car accident. His head fell off. He might want to come and say hello to his wife. So, Peter comes running down the stairs and sods off. It's late at night. And Marco suddenly realises, oh shit, the Yerks are going to be after him, because we've established in that big barn meeting that if he's discovered zero space, then the Yerks are going to be after all of them, everyone that worked there. And Marco had sort of tested his father to see if he was a Yerk before, came to the conclusion that he wasn't. So Marco's now thinking, oh shit, this is it. They're going to infest my father. So Nora comes up and says, what's going on? And Marco says, just don't you worry. You go back to bed, love. Right, I'm dealing with this shit. I'm not dealing with anything. Just go to bed, woman. Jesus Christ. And so he phones up Rachel. Jake didn't answer, so he got hold of Rachel, who, as we all know, is going to be up for this sort of thing. And then he flies over to this dead man's house. And his father's already there. Marco demorphs from bird in the bushes and sort of looks in through beneath the curtain line. And there are Hork-Bajir in there, and some human controllers as well. And there's a big vat, a big Yerk vat. And Peter is about to be infested. Shit. So next thing Marco knows, he's innately morphed to gorilla, smashes in the window, and starts throwing furniture around and, hits everyone around the room a bit, and manages to stop his father getting infested for the moment. That's why I take it's a very, very nitpicky point, but you know how Hork-Bajir are arboreal, and they lived on these massive trees, like loads of miles from the ground, and it's basically implied that they don't fall, which implies that they have incredible balance, right? I grabbed the closest weapon, the glass globe, from a floor lamp. Heads up, I sneered, and threw the globe like a fastball. One of the Hork-Bajir fumbled it like a hot potato, fell backward and hit his head on the table. Oh, for God's sake, fiancé. So this Hork-Bajir, with incredible balance, he gets something thrown at him, and he gives it the whole cartoon, whoa, whoop, and falls back and hits his head. No! No! Use your brain, Ellen. That wouldn't happen with a creature that's I can't see it. I can't see it happening. Hork-Bajir, fumble, whoopsie daisy, bonk. Oh shit, I'm unconscious. I don't see it. I just don't see it. And then, he's done most of the work, but he gets cornered by two Hork-Bajir. One's got his neck and is just sort of standing there. He's got blades and that, but he's just standing there holding Marco's neck and looking at him viciously. And then Marco says, time's up, boys. And Rachel Deus Ex Machinas and comes up and, as the book says, gigantic paws knocked their heads together. So plunk, unconscious. And then the next bit is weird. So she's knocked their heads together. And then Marco says, or describes, I don't even want to describe what Rachel did next. Let's just say those particular yerks wouldn't trouble anyone for a while. Eh? What? So she's knocked their heads together, presumably knocking them unconscious, and then she does something that Marco doesn't want to describe. Those particular yerks wouldn't trouble anyone for a while. I'm just sitting there like, what the fuck did she do? What did she do? She's dealt with the situation and he doesn't want to describe what... It's just bad writing. I'm just confused. I mean, I understand to a degree what effect that Ellen Drew's trying to get across, but no, it just left me confused and thinking, what did she do? Why would she do? She's knocked them unconscious. What else does she have to do? And why can't we describe it? Did she like, I don't know. Did she make them French kiss each other while they're unconscious? Like the sadistic little weirdo she is. So they've rescued Marco's dad. And they managed to get him to go into his car, right? They say, come on, into your car, we're driving. So Peter's shaking and he gets in his car. Probably shouldn't be driving, but, you know, desperate times call for desperate measures. And Marco says, drive! He's gone into the car next to him as a gorilla. And how many times have we seen Marco as a gorilla in a car or a van or any mode of transport? It's a little gag a running gag, I suppose you could call it. Though it's not particularly funny in this scene. I don't think it's meant to be. But anyway, they drive off and then there's a van behind them. And it's apparently got Hawk Bajir in the front and he presumes 6 or 7 in the back, just following them. And take a pause. One of the tropes that I hate the most in movies, I absolutely detest. What the hell was that noise? That's not a noise I'm familiar with. Bonk. Aliens. Maybe it's Peter's dad sending me a message. Peter's dad, Marco's dad, Christ. My brain is going... The trope that I hate most out of probably all of them is the obligatory car chase scene that you see in every single thriller movie. And it's a very specific trope, but it always happens nonetheless. They're in a car chase scene and they're swerving around, being chased. And there's the bad guys in a car following them and they're swerving around the traffic as well. And it's all fast-paced and crazy and thriller. Yeah, guys. And then there's always that bit where they swerve or come out of something and the bad guy's car just like crashes or flips over and they drive away. Whew, we made it, guys. I hate it because it's used in every single fucking film. That obligatory car chase scene with the bad guys crashing at the end. I will say for Animorphs, we're 45 books in and we get our first one of them. They actually held off of it for quite a while, which in a way I'm glad at. I'm glad that they've only done it at this point, at least so far. I still hate that trope, but I'm happy that it's been not very used very much. And it only took up like half a page. It was the most brief car chase scene ever put to print. Oh no, they're chasing us. Oh, we turned. Oh, they crashed. Great, yeah. That's pretty much it. Right, I'm going to take off my jacket because it's actually getting very hot in front of these light bulbs now. It's not quite winter yet. What follows next is this book's biggest crime. So Marco and his dad have gotten away. And they're next morning, as the sun's about to rise, they're at like a little drive-in, hidden away in some corner somewhere. And they're having a chat. Okay? And the chapter essentially starts saying, I told him everything, almost everything. This frustrated me to no end, right? Look at any form of media, like your big TV shows and your dramas and your soap operas. What is the part that people seem to be drawn to the most? The confrontation, the info dump, essentially. Look at any... So, in a soap opera, this guy's been cheating on his partner, and she's been cheating at the same time, and neither one of them is aware of this. And then they eventually come together. The big moment. I've been cheating on you. I've been cheating on you too. Cheat gang. Facetiousness aside, the big moment, the reveal. The reveal is the big moment. The moment that we wait for. The reveal. This book decides that we don't get that. Unforgivable. For 45 books in, and I've waited for this moment where he says, we're Animorphs. We turn into animals. There are these aliens. And Peter to be like, no, you're kidding me. And he'd be like, yeah, you remember so this and that. And he'd be like, oh God, you're right. That drama, we don't get it. None of it. It's just skipped by. Bollocks to that. No, you don't deprive us of what would have been the most delicious part of this book. Why did you... This book is 127 pages. You've got a freaking car chase scene that was completely unnecessary. Why couldn't you fit this in? A chapter or two where he's revealing all this stuff. Instead, no. We get less pages than usual, and we get the big reveal cut out. It's shocking and infuriating. I wanted that. I craved that moment, and it was taken away. It just wasn't there. It didn't happen. I explained everything to him. That's the line we get. Oh, I did this. I explained it. I revealed everything. Do we get to see it? No. No, we don't get to see it. Fuck you, book. So anyway, that anger-inducing madness aside, Marco decides to take Peter to the Chi. Yes, everyone's favourite, the Chi. And Eric says, does he know? So Mark says, yeah, so they go in. And this is where Peter meets the Chi. And, you know, we get a bit of a reveal of him saying, oh, my God, it's an android. OK, what's next? You know, yeah, don't give us... You've not given us the big one. You've given us these little tiny reveals that by this point he already vaguely knows about, so his shock isn't that great. It's just, fuck you, book. Anyway, the Chi take him in and he goes to live underground with all the dogs in that big park. I've just had a thought. We'll cover that later, okay? But yeah, he's staying under there. So Marco now goes back to the barn, at which the Animorphs have their big discussion. And Cassie says, you did what you thought was right, Marco. You did the right thing. And Rachel said, I would have done the same. Axe is there saying, your actions were imprudent. And I disapprove strongly, but I shall show no signs of emotion. And I suppose Jake will do the punishment. Then we get even more baffling stuff while we're in the barn here. Right, so they're talking about this Z-space transponder, and they're saying what they can do with it. We can talk to the Andalites. Great, we know that you could already do that if you went to that satellite dish in Book 8, but we're just going to forget that. Now we can talk to the Andalites because we've got this Z-space transponder thing. I'm baffled by this. They can talk to the homeworld. We established that in Book 8. So this new revelation of this Z-space transponder, it's precisely what we need to talk to the Andalite homeworld. The fuck are you talking about? Whatever. Anyway, what's the matter with you guys? This is Marco talking. Don't you realise that a Z-space transponder means access to all Z-space transmissions? Isn't that right, Axe? Yes. So it's not just a way to phone home, Rachel argued. It's a chance to intercept Yerk transmissions. No. Right. Most people on the planet, right, have access to radio transmissions. At least all of the nations and all the militaries in the world have access to these to radio transmissions. Does that mean they can intercept the Royal Navy's battleships' communications? No, it doesn't. It doesn't work like that. If it did work like that, there would be no military secrets, essentially. They wouldn't, because everyone would freaking know. You just, oh, I wonder what the Bolivian Navy is saying today. Tune into them. And even if that were the case, do you not think that advanced races would put guards up against it? You might think that? Because if that's not the case, then the Yeerk War would be over, because the Andalites would just be listening to all their communications through Z-space. Oh, we're going to invade Earth next. Send all fighters. And the Andalites would just be, right, intercept. Go, ambush, destroy. God book. And how did they realise this? Axe hesitated, began to pace, then spoke again. This human-made device is seemingly, at least, equal to or even superior to Yeerk technology. How the fuck do you know that? How? What? Have you spoken to the scientists since we last saw you? Have you looked at the schematics for this thing? No, you got told by Marco that it's something to do with a cone. And, and you're like, this must be equal to or superior to Yeerk technology. Forgive me, Axe, but fuck off. Respectfully, fuck off. You could say, oh, well, the Chi must have told them. The Chi must have spoken to the Animorphs recently and said this Z-space transponder is equal to or superior to the Yeerk's technology, so you should be able to unscramble their chats. They obviously didn't say that part because that's just Rachel being a divvy, but the Chi must have said it to them. Okay, so once again, the Chi have waited until everything is done before telling the Animorphs. They've waited until the Animorphs have discovered this to tell the Animorphs that it exists. That's your only other option. Both options are crap! But the Animorphs decide, well, we better talk to Marco's dad to get information about how to build this Z-space transponder so we can make calls to the Andalite homeworld, even though we've already been able to do that and we know how to do that. That's just been wiped from their minds. Let's go talk to him. So they set off back to Chi World, the dog park underground. And they go in as a team. And Axe is obviously there, revealing himself to Marco's dad, who again is only slightly shocked. And they say, we want this technology. So Peter says, oh, I can't build it here, I need my lab stuff. And Axe says, I shall help you. There's one very large obstacle, Dad said. We'll never be able to acquire the necessary equipment and components. They're not the sort of things you can pick up at Dixon's. I like Dixon's, Axe says. Sure, Dad said, so do I, but they don't sell stellar coordinators. Maybe these Chi creatures could help us. The Chi cannot participate or assist in the transfer of technology that could enable war and destruction, Axe explained. It's written into their programming. Bullshit. The Chi cannot participate or assist in the transfer of technology that could enable war and destruction. Short way of putting it, they can't help you when it involves things getting blown up and shit. Let's backtrack, okay? Firstly, he specifies technology, okay? Specifies technology. Does that then mean that the Chi can deliver stuff that isn't technology to enable war and destruction, i.e. people? Like in Visser. Do you remember in Visser where Eric snuck the Animorphs into the Yeerk pool to enable them to carry out war and destruction, i.e. attacking the Council of 13 chamber? Eric brought them in. He transported them. I suppose they're not technology. They carry technology in their bodies, the morphing technology, which is an indirect transportation of technology, isn't it? And then you go, so basically, the chi programming, according to what's implied here, the chi programming distinguishes between people being transported to war and destruction and technology transported to war and destruction. It doesn't matter the outcome, it's a distinguish between technology and people. That doesn't make sense. But either way, the outcome is the same, war and destruction. So, yeah, it doesn't make sense that there would be this arbitrary distinction about what specifically they're transporting that aids in war and destruction. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't. And not only that, right? So they want to sneak into a lab to grab some equipment. What's that equipment going to be used for? To contact the Andalite homeworld. Why do they want to contact the Andalite homeworld? To give them updates on the war and to see if the Andalites can come help them out, which eventually could lead to war and destruction. But that's quite a hell of an indirect path to get to war and destruction, much less so than taking the Animorphs and put them in the Yeerk pool to fight against the Yeerks. Do you know what this is? Oh, they can't assist in taking technology and... It's just an excuse to cover that particular plot hole. That's all it is. It doesn't make logical sense. It is literally just to pave over a big hole in this plot. Either that, or the Chi are talking bullshit, which has been my theory for quite a few books now. The only way this makes sense is if the Chi are spreading bullshit. Do you believe me yet? Because if it's not a true theory, then this makes no sense. Believe me yet? I hope you do. And then the end of chapter 10. Dad looked disturbed. Marco, I'll go for the previous one. So they're talking about going in and stealing stuff from a lab. Dad, you underestimate your son. Burglary, in the name of justice and freedom, of course, is among the great variety of talents the Animorphs possess. You want it, we can get it. Dad looked disturbed. Marco, you can't just... Don't worry. We only take from controller-run corporations and we'll find a way to make everything okay when the war's over. But that doesn't make it right. Dad, nothing is right anymore. He was silent for a moment. Then he rose to his feet and looked at us. Well then, boys, let's get busy. Well, what's wrong with that part of the chapter, Adam, you might ask? Two things, okay? The bit where Marco says, Dad, nothing is right anymore. The last two paragraphs are Marco distinguishing between right and wrong. Burglary, in the name of justice and freedom, of course. Just a difference between right and wrong. Don't worry, we only take from controller-run corporations. Why's that, Marco? Because you're distinguishing between right and wrong. And we'll find a way to make everything okay when the war's over. Distinguishing between right and fucking wrong. The next sentence, nothing is right anymore. Fuck that shit. Bollocks. And then, so 2 sentences ago, Marco's dad is just, you can't do that. That's not right. So Marco says, nothing is right anymore. And he's just like, good enough for me. Let's get to it. How easily convinced do you want to be? I will stand by my principles. There is no such thing as principles. Let's do it. What are you playing at, book? Ellen Giroux, what has happened to you? That's a nice little rhyme. Right, next scene. Finally get to it. Marco and his dad fake their own deaths. Fun. So they are in a room packing to go somewhere. Oh, we've got to get out of town. We'll get Nora, blah, de, blah, de, blah. And then suddenly 4 human controllers come in, raise their weapons and Dracon beam, and Marco and his dad evaporate into nothing. And then the human controllers say, job done, and leave. And then it turns out that Marco was listening in Morph, and Eric and Mr. King were in there pretending to be Marco and his dad, and they took the blast of the Dracon beams. Now, what's the problem with this, Adam, you might ask? I'll tell you what the fucking problem is. Do you remember in book 30, again that one seems to have been forgotten, the Chi were able to hologram an entire Hork-Bajir valley. And those Hork-Bajir were being blasted left, right and centre, exploded, their guts were bursting out of their chests, their heads were like just falling off from the sheer craziness of it. And there were no androids getting blown up underneath it all. It was all just one big hologram. Why are we in this book now, where Eric and his dad both have to be, the hologram cannot be outside of their actual physical form? That's not how the Chi work. That's not how it works. Mr. King gets blasted and he's like really badly damaged. I'm just reading this thinking, why didn't he just have the hologram there? Choo! Oh, make the hologram go down. Oh, I'm fine. No. Honest to God, this is bad. Oh, have we just forgotten how the Chi work now? But regardless of that nonsense, they've faked their own death, and Marco looks around his room and he thinks, well, that's it. That's this life over. He can't go to school anymore. He can't do his maths exams. But before he goes, he sees Nora outside the window. Peter's new wife, second wife. She's been taken as a controller. So Marco is looking at her thinking, I essentially left her to be taken as a controller, and he has this big guilt thing going on. And this is one of the redeeming parts of this book. This whole thing about Nora being a controller now, Marco having this sting of guilt, and how he reveals this to his father, or how he reveals a lie to his father. We get more into that later. But that's one of the better parts of this book, Marco's guilt of the collateral, essentially. In saving his father, he's just condemned Nora to a life of hell. And why? Because he didn't really like Nora all that much. And the best part about this whole thing is Marco looking at that saying, just because I had this petty dislike of her, a dislike that isn't actually technically her fault, I essentially just left her to be taken. And that's a real strong part of this book. So this isn't all crap. It has these moments like that, which I thought was very powerful. And then we get back to the bullshit. So they've gotten this Z-space transponder. They've managed to put it together. The Axe is fiddling around these buttons. They're in a secluded place where they can't really be tracked that well, so they're hoping against hope, whatever. Or is that later on? I don't know. But whatever, they're looking at the Z-space transponder, and there's these languages coming through, and Axe can't really translate it very well. He's trying at the moment, but all they're getting through is essentially gibberish. And he's listening in, okay? He's getting hold of unscrambled Yeerk communications through Z-space because the Yeerks are incompetent and don't account for these things. And why the Andalites haven't taken advantage of this already, I don't know. But anyway, it's very difficult to piece together, Axe said tentatively. My knowledge of Yeerk culture is not great. I do not fully understand the nuances of Yeerk communication. Don't worry, Axeman, Tobias from a perch in a nearby tree. What do you think they've been saying? But I would be speculating, guessing, Axe protested. Go for it, Rachel ordered. Live dangerously. If you don't, I'm leaving. Great stuff, Rachel, very diplomatic. There is one thing, Axe began, one very disturbing conclusion that I can draw, though with limited certainty. Axe looked at me. Visa One has returned to Earth, but for a grim purpose she's been held at the Yeerk pool. She is to be executed as a traitor. From what I understand, death as a traitor means death by controller starvation. The event awaits only the necessary witness from the Council of 13, who will arrive in 2 days. Visa 3 will then be elevated to the post of Visa 1. And there are rumours, nothing concrete, but suggestions that the execution of Visa 1 is part of an overall change affecting Earth. Speculation, Axe. I would just be speculating. Here's the plan in detail. Ellen, what concoction have you been sipping? I mean, I don't get Axe here. He's apparently got all this in-depth information, and he's just like, I can't really tell you because I'll just be speculating. You clearly are not speculating, because firstly, it turns out to be true exactly as you say. Secondly, how can you get that much in-depth information? How can you get those specifics if your translator barely works and you're just speculating on what they're saying? I don't get that. That's just, again, badly written. And so they're figuring out their next steps. It turns out there is a big hangar, okay? This massive underground hangar for bug fighters and the blade ship and all, massive. It turns out it's about as big as the Yerk pool. And I mentioned, I laughed a bit earlier when I mentioned the dog park, because I remember in an early review, I mentioned how, okay, so underneath this one town, you've got the Yerk pool, the size of multiple stadiums. You've got this dog park, the size of presumably multiple stadiums, side by side. How the fuck is this town staying up? Now we've got a third fucker under there. Fucking bustling in. I'm a hangar. I'm about the same size as the... fucking hell. The city's not just gone... What else have they got under there? Is a Bond villain setting up a secret lair under there as well? Is there another alien race? Are the Pemalites setting up a big underground base there as well? Maybe I've got an underground base under this town in California, the size of a football stadium. Hey, let's all have a fucking base under there. Fuck. Then again, who'd want to live in California, am I right? And then there's the question of what do they do with Marco's dad? He's currently in the Chi Dog Park and he seems to be having a wonderful time. So why they're wondering where to put him seems a bit redundant because he's there. Are the Chi's prices for nightly rent too high? Can't you afford... Does he not like the food? Does he not like the company? You can't afford to be too fucking picky. Unless the Chi are literally like, yeah, we'll have him for a few days, but we don't... Tell him to fuck off. You know, take him somewhere else. We don't really want him. I mean, to be fair, we know the Chi are dicks, so I wouldn't be surprised. So they come up with a tip-top suggestion for what to do with Marco's dad. And actually, no, before I go into that, right, so he's gone to the Chi. Remember David? Why didn't they put him with the Chi? You remember when he was saved and they didn't know what to do with him, so they stuck him up in, I think, Cassie's barn at first and then Jake's attic, whatever. Why didn't they take him to the dog park? I'm looking back thinking, yeah, why didn't they? Did it not? I don't know. I really don't know. Plot convenience again, maybe. But then this part. So they're having to think, where do we put Marco's dad? I know a nice place, Tobias said. Good climate, no tourists, low prices. Friendly locals. They're a little on the slow side, but they can tell a great story. Well, firstly, that implies that the Chi don't have a good climate. There are tourists, the prices are extortionate, and the locals are a bit dickish. I'm being facetious, but... The Free Hawk Bajir colony, Cassie cried. We'll send them to the Hawk Bajir. My mind flooded with sun-washed scenes of peace and harmony. Mum climbing a tree next to Toby. Dad teaching English in a flower-filled meadow. They could act as advisors for the Hawk Bajir. They could be unofficial governors of the valley. What a bunch of tossers. Right, put it this way, okay? You live in... You've got your own house, right? And this guy comes up to the door. He knocks on the door, you open. Who's this? And you point to this guy that you've just found. Or some long-lost friend or whatever. Says, freaking Chris here has had a rough time recently. He's had it rough. So we've decided he's staying at your house. In you go, Chris. There you go. Oh, by the way, he does smell a bit, but you should get over that pretty soon. Also, he wants to set the rules for the house. Is that okay? Yeah, it's okay. No need to say anything. No need. I know you'll do this great favour. You're such a good friend. Bye now. You'd rightly give that guy a fucking kicking, wouldn't you? That's what the Animorphs have just done. Take him to the Hawkbudget. Right, this guy's yours. He wants to set rules for you as well, so just pay attention to him. He's in charge now. Toby would be fucking livid. What the fuck are you doing? Who's this prick? Why is he in charge? I thought I was in charge. What a bunch of dicks the Animorphs are to these Hawkbudget. They show them absolutely no respect. Oh, we'll just, these two people that Hawkbudget don't know, they can be unofficial governors now. They can control you. What a bunch of absolute bad words. Word that I don't want to say right now. This is what I mean when I say that the Hawkbudget just get no respect even from their allies. The Animorphs just treat them as this, like, rent-a-room. We don't know what to do with them. They'll just send them there. The Hawkbudget can deal with them. Nah, mate, nah. It's a good time to explain why Marco wants to send his mum there as well, because Visser-1 now being in the Yerk pool, strange place to bring her, they want to rescue her. Why? Because they think that she would have information on what Visser-3 plans to do. Even though we already know what Visser-3 plans to do, and we've just gotten information from Axe explaining exactly what he plans to do. Could you repeat the plan to me again? We want to go in and into this dangerous situation to rescue Visser-1 in order so that she can tell us the very thing that we already knew was going to happen. Again, this is typical Ellen Giroux, unable to string together a plot. It makes no sense. It doesn't. It's just a way to move the plot along, which is a common occurrence in Animorphs, unfortunately. Thankfully, it doesn't happen that often, but it happens often enough to notice. The plan doesn't need to make sense. We'll just find a way to get him into that situation. Logic be damned. And this is another one of those situations. And then Axe, again, another example of plot convenience coming into play. So, they're talking about being able to get Visser-1 out of the Yerk pool. Dad smiled at the ground, a peace offering. I tried to finish my argument. What I'm trying to say is that we don't have a plan. We don't even know how to get into the pool anymore. Not since they closed the car wash. That's not true, Axe said, glancing up with his main eyes. He tuned a big knob on the Z-Space transponder, then another, littler one. He removed the earpiece from his ear. I have heard enough Z-Space communication to know that the Yerks have recently added a major tunnel to the pool. It connects to a new underground facility for docking and repairing bug fighters. The tunnel also carries out a complex decontamination process equipped to kill any living thing. Okay, let me get this straight. We don't have a plan to get in. Hold on, guys. Right, so they built a tunnel, right, and it's mauve, right, lovely shade of mauve, and it's about 15.38 feet wide, and fucking what? Hold on a sec. Here's the information you need. Great, good stuff. Honest to fucking God, how much more plot conveniency do you want to get? Oh, we don't have this information. I will just unscramble some random Yerk frequency. And funnily enough, they just mentioned this tunnel. On the floor with you. How much more plot conveniency do you want to get? Also, another burning question. You want to go in and rescue Visser 1. You think, how do we get into the Yerk Pool? You could ask yourself, well, how did we get in last time? We used Eric in a hologram and he walked us in. Why can't we do that again? We just can't. We just can't. We've done it before. It wouldn't be as entertaining for the audience, the readers. Wouldn't it get the job done faster? Yeah. But no. The plot holes are becoming issues now. They're becoming real issues. This isn't a small plot hole anymore. There is stuff happening in this book, or not happening in this book, which has happened before, but is now unable to happen now for absolutely no reason whatsoever. Jesus. Anyway, the plan is to steal a bug fighter. So they go out into the woods. Tobias pretends to be a Hork-Bajir in a trap. Marco calls up, says, oh, I found a bladed alien. It's an alien. And 10 minutes or so later, bug fighter comes in, lands, the Hork-Bajir step out, Animorphs knock him out. Taxon does something, rather than actually fly the bug fighter away, decides to step out and get battered as well. So now the Animorphs have a bug fighter. Great, lovely. Great. So they've got this thing now, and Axe is able to get into the controls, and within about 5 minutes he knows what he's doing, and they shoot up and then shoot back down into the water, because the entrance to this new hangar is underneath the water. They go in, they find a ship. Long story short, they go into this tunnel and come out into this big hangar underground. This whole new facility that we've never seen before. And it's filled to the brim with bug fighters, and the Visser's blade ship is there as well. Meaning that maybe he's there. Makes you think, doesn't it? Anyway, they park up, and they've all morphed Hork-Bajir so that they fit in. And they start walking through. And there are these conveyor belts that take the forces into the main Yerk Pool. And they go into there. And they step into the Yerk Pool, and funnily enough, there's Visser 1 bang smack in the middle of the bloody infestation pier for everyone to see, and she's being essentially tortured to death, okay? And then Jake has the great idea of turning around, going back to the ship, flying the ship in, and getting her out that way. It's bordering on book 37 planning territory. So they start to move back through to the hangar, but they get stopped along the way, or Jake does specifically. And it becomes a big scuffle, and everyone's fighting, and there's all this confusion everywhere because everyone's just Hork-Bajir. But eventually they get back to the ship, and everyone gets back on it. And then they fly into the main Yerk Pool in this bug fighter and start. Well, they move initially to the pool, open the hatch, drop force field, and they jump out onto this infestation pier and start trying to help Visser 1. But another bug fighter flies through and starts firing at their bug fighter. So the bug fighter, theirs, has to fly away, leaving Marco and who else was there? I believe it was Rachel. Yes, it was Rachel. On this pier to rescue Visser 1. Well, Axe drives... these two bug fighters are just having a shootout in the middle of the Yerk Pool. Okay. They manage to grab hold of Visser 1, and then these new Hork-Bajir show up. And these are big, bolty Hork-Bajir, right? And they've got these are the blue bands arriving, okay? The new Visser 1's special force, the blue bands. And they come up. And Mark and Rachel think, oh, we have to run now. And there's this really weird bit. Let's get to the other pier, I shouted. Then what? Run like hell. The gap between the piers was at least 1.5 meters, maybe more. Rachel ran down our pier like it was an airstrip. She lifted up, rocketed through space. The perfect long jump. Marco, come on! No choice. I taxied like a 747. The jump was too long. We hurtled through the air above churning yerks and crashed onto the reinfestation pier. Seriously? Let's go over that distance again. The gap between the piers was at least 1.5 meters high. It's just confusing because I initially thought it was 1.5 meters long, which is like that. But it says the gap between the piers was at least 1.5 meters high. It's just very confusing how it's written. I really don't know. And then, right, so Rachel is confronted by the biggest of the big Hork-Bajir. I am Grath, he growled, eyes yellow-orange, infernos. I am the leader of the elite blue band squadron. You will surrender or you will die. So we're introduced to this Grath character. And then he subsequently disappears and is never heard from again. Does he come? Does he come back later in the series? Because if not, he just said, "I am Graf, and now I shall step back into the shadows of obscurity." It just nothing comes of that. Just yeah, it's weird that he named himself and then just nothing, nothing. We don't even know if anything happened to him. He was just there. Weird. There's an explosion. One of the bug fighters above them has exploded, and Marco and Rachel just automatically think, "Oh no, it was our chums that exploded. They're dead now." And then possibly the worst Deus Ex Machina of the entire series. Visser 3 shows up because he was obviously there because his blade ship was there, and he comes in, mustache twirling. Haha, I have you now, and like bandits, you raucous dog brains. And then he morphs. It's all this bloody great big flying morph, and he zips up into the air, and then he turns down and he's aiming for Marco and Rachel and all that. And then, as a bug ship zoomed out from behind a storage building. A Dracon blast right into the whatever its belly. Roar! The Visser shrieked. The fighter rocketed towards us. Marco! It was Jake's voice, Jake's fighter. But I saw you crash. No, he said. You saw the Yerks crash. Where's your faith in Axeman? Hang on, we're coming in. Wow, that's got to be one of the worst Deus Ex Machinas of the whole series. The bug fighter just appeared behind a storage building. Bang. Now the Visser's down and he's screaming, "You and like filth, I shall have my revenge." God, it's cringe. Anyway, when Marco jumped this 1.5 meters high pier, it turns out that Visser 1 crawled out of Eva's ear, Marco's mother. So now we spend about 5 pages of Marco's mother just going, "Kill it, kill it, kill it." And Marco just looking at it as it slowly slithers away. But then eventually she just goes, "Ugh," and kills it. No, she half kills it, and then Marco comes up and finishes off the job, which is just a weird sequence of events that just seemed really unnecessary. But Visser 1's dead. Idris, the narrator for Visser, gets an unceremonious end, which seemed pretty needless, and in fact probably counterproductive, because she's obviously now an enemy of the Yerk Empire. If you allowed her to seep back into the Yerk Empire, it's probably only going to cause them damage. And also she's defenseless, so it's bad on 2 counts. I'm just saying, probably would have done well to keep Idris going. That's just me. So they managed to jump back into the bug fighter, which settles down nicely, and once again, nobody's shooting at it. It's just such a... This whole bug fighter scene is just... I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. Let's put it this way. They got hold of a bug fighter by making a call. They managed to steal the bug fighter, no problem at all. It was then guided by autopilot into the main hangar. So they didn't have to put in any effort for that at all. And then they just got it up, blasted a hole and drove it straight into the Yerk pool and were able to blast things. How fucking easy was that? I don't buy it. Not even the incompetent Yerks would be that fucking incompetent. The Animorphs the next day could, or instead of this bloody plan, they could have just said, Right, we'll do all of this, except at the end of it, we'll just blow everything up. Just blow everything up. Just take one bug fighter, which is an easy enough task. We've done it about 5 times. Autopilot it into the hangar, drive it through into the Yurt pool, and bang! End of Yurt pool. End of invasion, all done. It could be that fucking easy. Is it? It probably shouldn't be. But the book required it to be so. So we got it. Fuck, plot convenience, I hate it. Anyway, they escape and Nora... Nora? No, Nora's gone. Eva and Peter now live with the Hork-Bajir, hanging out with them, and they're all lovey-dovey, even though Toby is probably in the background just seething. Why the fuck have they brought these bastards here? It's annoying that we didn't get things from her perspective of her saying to the Animorphs, why they weren't invited. Why are you inviting them in after fucking... Poor old Toby. Anyway, they're there, and Marco basically sums up this book at the very end here. Chi-Land wasn't so bad. That's where I stayed now, mostly. A few sentences later. And when we didn't have a mission, I went to the valley. Always to the valley. Okay, so in the space of like 3 sentences, you've just completely contradicted yourself. I stayed in Chi-Land mostly. Also, when we didn't have a mission, I always went to the valley. Which is it? Where do you stay? Chi-Land or the valley? You've said both. And you've said both of them basically exclusively. I stayed at Chi-Land mostly. I always went to the valley. Which one is it? You can't... I am 29 years old. I'm also 33 years old. You'd look at me and think I was a fucking idiot. Anyway, the book finishes with them having got this Z-space transponder and phoning the Andalite homeworld. And they get in touch. Okay? And Axe says to Jake, this is your moment. And so Jake steps up and says, this is Earth. And that's where the book ends. Done. So that last bit where we talk to the Andalite homeworld, let's just forget that they were already able to do that going by book 8. Let's just say that never happened. And now for the first time they know how to contact the Andalite homeworld. That's going to lead us into the next book. This thing was a real disappointment. You know, this was going to be the big one where the countdown began. And what do we get? Shite! I know people like this book, and I know why they like this book. It's got so many big moments. Peter finds out about Marco and the Animorphs. They rescue Eva. They move them both to the Hork-Bajir Valley, and Marco moves in with the Hork-Bajir as well. Visser 3 essentially becomes Visser 1. We're introduced to the blue bands. We hear about this new bug fighter hangar that takes up that extra space underground. We've got a Z-space transponder, so now they're contacting the Andalites on another world. Visser 1 has lost the Anati battle, hence why she was tried and obviously executed. How many big moments can you fit into 127 pages and it still be goddamn awful? I don't get it. How have you managed this, Ellen Giroux? How? How can you... It just seems unbloody believable. This book should have been brilliant. It should have been. But unfortunately, they chose the wrong ghostwriter. Ellen Giroux doesn't do the big stuff. She does the subtle little bits, and she does them really well. But every time she's been given these big plots and big moments, it's fallen flat. The plot points were illogical, rushed, and convenient at every turn. There's not a single logical jump in this book that really seems believable in any way. Everything is shunted in at the most convenient way possible. And not only that, but we don't get to see the big reveal of Marco telling Peter about the Animorphs and all that. We don't get it. It's not given to us. Shocking. I don't understand how something with so many revelations in it can be so shocking. It just doesn't seem reasonable. But there are, I mean, I know I'm really angry and I'm talking really angrily, okay? The reason is because this is such a fundamentally important book and it's a letdown, hence why I'm very angry. The book does have its positives. The whole thing about Nora. At the very end, Marco tells Peter that she'd been a controller all along. Lied to him to make him feel better. And that isn't a small thing. It's the sort of stuff that Ellen Giroux does well. Okay? And that was a good moment. What does it mean for Marco's character development? Usually, he doesn't do that sort of stuff. He doesn't lie to people. He tells it straight and how it is. But it's different now. It's his family. He reacts with his family different than he does with other people. It's something we've seen for a while, and this is the clearest example of that. What else was good? Yeah, so we got the Nora stuff. The Anati stuff. And that is something that probably slips under a lot of people's radars. Remember back in Visser. Visser 1, or who was Visser 1 at the time, was told that she would be sent to the Anati homeworld, where recently a Yeerk task force had disappeared, and they said to her, you are too important to get rid of, so we're going to send you to the Anati homeworld to take care of that invasion there. What do we know? About 10 books later, she is being declared a traitor and will be executed. What does that mean? It means that the Anati homeworld was not taken by the Yeerks. The Yeerks failed. What does that mean for the bigger picture? The Yeerks are not going to be up there. They're probably going to come back down to Earth. And that's very important going forward. The Anati stuff is stuff I want to talk about in its own special video, because the Anati, they've been in a couple of throwaway lines here and there, the Anati. But they are very important. And I've never really seen anyone else talk about the Anati, but they're setting in motion some really important details. And I think they deserve a video of their own eventually. So we will eventually get to them. But I liked that little underlying bit in there. Honestly, I can't think of many other positives. A lot of the positives are the big movements, but when you get to those movements in a really crappy way, it just seems bad. Put it this way, okay? Fine cuisine. You go to a restaurant, best restaurant in town, and you say, I want the steak tartare. And, oh no, go for a sirloin steak. Let's go for a proper sirloin steak. Best meal on the planet, right? And everything about it's so beautiful. All the ingredients are there. You've got the sirloin steak itself. You've got some proper homemade spicy chips. You've got your peas. And you've got your beautiful peppercorn sauce. And a couple of little bits of onion ring as well. Top pucker food, right? But it's delivered in a vat of cyanide. Okay, maybe that's an extreme example. They wheel it out in a big vat of urine and say, there it is. There's your fine cuisine. And you look at it and you think, yeah, okay, it's got the steak, it's got the peppercorn sauce, it's got the peas, and it's got the homemade chips. It's even got the onion rings. Fine cuisine. But you've placed it in a vat of urine. I'm going to pass. It's got all the ingredients. They're all in there. All those great, lovely bits are in there. But you've soaked it in piss. And that's the biggest disappointment of this book. All the ingredients are there. They're in there. And you fucking doused it in slush. Book. And you can't go disrespecting the Hawk-Bajir without getting me pissed, right? My favourite aliens, you can't be doing that, right? And the disrespect that the Animorphs gave to the Hawk-Bajir in this book, nah, mate, you can't be doing that. Scores for this letdown. Jake. The mere fact that he did the whole, you're cool, oh, actually, no, it's not your cool. Bad leadership, okay? Very bad leadership. The plan of let's turn around, get the bug fighter, fly in and hope for the best was weird. The fact that you went in to rescue Visser 1 to get information that you already had was ridiculous. Apart from that, he made some relatively leader-like calls, but overall it's a 3. Bordering on 4, so high 3 maybe. Still pretty damn bad. The book, I can't... Right, yesterday after I finished reading it, I was telling myself it's a 4 or 5. Now I'm thinking, after going over it in my head, I'm thinking, is it a 3? Jesus, what a decision. People are going to hate me for this, because people don't like when I criticise books that are quite well known or well liked in the community. But, you know, these are my opinions. If you don't like them, then, you know, you don't have to have them. I'm not telling you to have my opinions. This book is very disappointing, and I'm going to give it a 3. It's bad. If it weren't such high stakes, it might have been a 4. But because of those big moments being just ruined, then that takes it down. It's a 3. Sorry, book, and sorry, fans of this book. Next book, The Deception, the shortest book in the series, a grand total of 117 pages. How's it going to go? It's another Axe book, so I am actually looking forward to it, even after the disaster that was this one. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I shall see you next time. Ta-ra.